We learned from what happened today.
When you overbook?
No. So what happened was, I've been working with these people for 2.5 years, and they've been looking at this one new home for like the last 2 months. And of course, at 4 o'clock yesterday, they said, we want to write a contract tomorrow at 11. Now, we've been looking at houses together the whole time, except for this one house. The husband had seen the house a couple times, but he hadn't gone through the pricing and everything like that. So instead of going there to write the contract and leave, he wanted to go over every single option, try and negotiate every single price, go look at vacant houses that are specs, look at different ones that are potentially coming on the market. So the thing is, the wife and I talked about all the options and what was good and what wasn't good, but he hadn't. So you want to have all the decision makers together all the time, and confirm it before you go to write the contract. That's basically what happened. I mean, we had discussed this place ad nauseum, but he had never actually sat down and had gone through everything, which took forever, and we still haven't written a contract. I left. I said, I thought we were signing a contract. I didn't know we were going to be negotiating a contract. But so I apologize for that. It should never have taken that long. All right. So of course that is dead. Be right back. Let's stop that.
We should all leave and go in the.
I don't know that
Turn the lights out.
Yeah, we learned a lot today. That was huge.
I don't know that I would have showed up. I would have stayed and wrote the contract. Sorry.
Scott's like, next, it'll happen later. So.
Some of us.
You probably had a pretty good read on if it was going to get done today anyways,
Well,
I was going to say that
he's all excited to talk to you guys about iBuyers.
I thought he was going to say that it was the only house that he didn't take them to, and it was new construction, so they didn't register him.
I thought
and he was going to fight about that.
Oh.
Now, he would still be there for that one.
Yeah, that's
I
what
bet he would be there for
I
that
thought
one.
that was going to go.
Really?
Yeah,
I thought that was.
he was doing
That's
a
it,
show
that's
at
it.
that Jack's place.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
North American Dog Tour.
Where do we have one? Right there. Thanks, sir.
North American Dog Tour.
Okay. So today we are talking about iBuyers. And the question I have for you is, do you know what an iBuyer is?
An internet
No.
buyer?
Just go online and
Okay, so an iBuyer basically, in a nutshell, is a house flipper, okay? And it's a company that uses technology to make an offer to the consumer, right? And the issue is, you have Home Buyers Express, or Express Home Buyers, you have Home Buyers of America, those local companies, and or We Buy Ugly Houses, those were like your first generation of people who were buying houses basically at wholesale and reselling them. A lot of those companies would go in and they would get the house under contract, and then they would assign that contract to somebody right before settlement for a fee, or sometimes they would make ridiculously low offers and would not end up closing on the house. Do you guys get emails from Express Home Buyers virtually every day on buy before it hits the market kind of thing? So very rarely will those companies go and perform on the sale. They'll go and they'll investigate it. They'll try to get it under contract with an assignment. They don't actually want to take possession of the property because it costs money to take possession of the property. So venture capital firms saw the opportunity to come in and take advantage of this market. So there is a market for these type of companies, but the problem that we're having now is that they are becoming more widespread, and they're going into new markets virtually every day. So the venture capitalists believe that this is a way of the future for real estate. And last week when I was in New York, we were talking about the buyer in the process for buying a house, and why does it have to take 30, 45, 60 days to close on a house, right? It doesn't seem to be an easy process. It's a complex process, a lot of paperwork and all that. And so these iBuyers, they take a lot of that out by going in and buying the house, right? And then they let the people stay in the house, or the people can set their time frame from where they want to close. But on the example that we discussed on qualifying for a house, you could go in and you could buy a Rolls Royce today, right, Chanel, for $420,000 and drive it off the lot within a couple hours. But if you want to buy a $250,000 condo, you cannot buy that house for 30 days, right? So what these iBuyers are trying to do, and what the message that they're getting out to consumers, is we simplify the process. And basically, they're simplifying the process by paying cash for the house. It's not a new concept. It's not a novel concept. It's all in their packaging of what they're doing that makes it seem unique and new and novel, right? So the other thing is, that they like to tell people is we save you the hassle of selling your house. The fix-up, the showings, the open houses, the negotiations of home inspection items, things along those lines, because although they buy your house, they still do an inspection afterwards, and then they will ding you up on price even further. So the other thing that they're trying to do is they say that they have the technology. So basically, they're using systems like Zestimates or CoreLogic's Home Pricing Index, or going into tax records to come up with their prices. And oftentimes, I've got a couple of examples of what they've done and where they try to get comparable sales. They don't have a grasp on a true valuation, because when was the last time a computer from Seattle was in your house? So how can they determine that your house's value is $240 versus $310, right? They don't know, and they're just basically going off of these logarithms to get them to a valuation of the house. Now, the other thing, that because they have the venture capital money behind them, they're able to scale quickly. So they all started in Phoenix. And why do you think they started in Phoenix?
Old people.
Old people.
No, not necessarily.
All the homes that were getting the prices coming down by all the
Okay.
deflation.
Who's been to Phoenix? Every single house is the same. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, 2,000 square feet. 3-bedroom, 2-bath. So it is easier to use that logarithm to come up with a price to help them purchase the property, right? So they're going to other markets. Raleigh's another one. It's very similar, where every house is pretty much a cookie cutter type house, right? They're not here yet, but they are expanding into LA. And so a majority of the houses that they're buying, depending on which company it is, they're looking at $100,000 to $500,000 sales prices. Okay, so
Not in LA, they're not.
I know. So that's why they're expanding into the LA market. This is going to be the first high-end market that they're going into. So it's definitely something that's going to. Let's see if I can get that bigger.
They'll find houses in that area like Compton.
What's that? And
Really low income,
yeah.
high crime areas.
Yeah, they're not going to, they don't really want to go there. They want move-in ready houses. They don't want to go in and spend $40,000 to fix up a house. They want to go in, carpet, paint, maybe caulk the bathrooms and get out. They don't want to do kitchen renovations. They don't want to do bathroom renovations. They want to make it simple. And the margins that, depending on which company it is, they're looking for 0 to 5% returns on their money, which is not a great deal of money. Zillow, who's into it, Zillow is looking at their average return on a house right now is $1,723. And they've bought close to 1,000 houses.
Right, it's just a volume business.
It's a volume business, exactly. So a lot of times, they're buying houses at $240 and then reselling them at $250, which seems to make no sense to me. So the companies that we're dealing with in this process is Open Door. And they were the first to market. They started in 2014. So far, they've completed over 27,000 sales. And they're right now doing about 2,000 a month. So they're going to be doing about 25,000 a year. Zillow, they started in 18. Theirs is called Instant Offers. From the numbers I've found, they had completed 898 sales. And then I saw something else that said 115, so that's why I'm saying about 1,000 houses. Redfin has Redfin Now. They've done very few purchases, and I just don't know if they can get it to scale or not, so they partnered with OfferPad. And OfferPad doesn't have any numbers out, but from some information I saw, they're second to Open Door. And OfferPad's in a lot more areas. Keller Williams is doing Keller Offers, and they just started that, and I think I've read somewhere that they bought like 3 houses so far, so they're not really a huge player in it. And then there's other companies that are local companies. There's a company called Door in Dallas, Offer Depot in Phoenix. You know, if someone says anything to you about an iBuyer, I'll be your iBuyer, because I can go and I can get cash to buy a house. Now, the price isn't going to be what they want. If you read their websites, again, any of these companies' websites, they all talk about how they make market value purchases when they really don't. And I've got some examples to show you that.
So wait, did you say we say, someone walked in, we're trying to make a listing and they say, we want iBuyer, and we say, well, we've got an
We've got an iBuyer program. Yep. So just bring that to me. The other thing, too, is with the majority of these companies, they don't go into the house until their qualified, certified inspector goes into the house. So the people who are making the offer don't even see it. So it's not, you know, a very good and valid offer, because it could need more than just carpet, paint, and then they may not end up buying the house. But so there's a market for these buyers. Number one, people are lazy, right? They don't want to go through the fix-up of the property, no matter what the cost is to get it to where they want. The timing, again, I said it could be, they could close in a week, or they close in 3 months. So it's a timing issue. Less stress, so there's no staging, no showings, no open houses. And then a lot of times, people have already purchased another house, right? And so they can't qualify to carry both houses, so they've got to get out from underneath of one, or they're going to lose a sizable deposit on the second one, right? So they do that. And then there's certainty in the transaction, obviously, because there's no finance contingency, no appraisal contingency, no there is a home inspection contingency, but there's really, you know, there's less uncertainty, because somebody could lose their job, right, and not qualify for the mortgage. And then in a lot of instances, like OfferPad and Open Door, they will pay a realtor 1% to bring deals to them. So they're not necessarily cutting agents out, but they're saying, hey, agent, you didn't do anything other than refer somebody. Basically, it's 25% referral fee, right? 1%, a little bit more, but so they're doing that. So the other reason that they're popular is, as again, the typical real estate transaction is adversarial, right? You have an agent that's difficult to deal with, or their clients are difficult to deal with. So it makes it less confrontational that way. So the fees that they charge. So what they also tout is you don't have to pay real estate commissions. You don't have to pay those high real estate commissions. Reduce your real estate commissions out of your pocket, right? So they're saying that there's no commissions, they just have a service fee, right? So the service fee for Open Door has been 7.1% and as high as 11.5%. Right, exactly. Zillow charges 7.5%, Redfin charges 7%, Knock charges 6%, and OfferPad is 7.5%. I did see a couple scenarios where they were 5%, and I've also seen them as high as 12%. So they really vary on their fees that they charge, and it depends on the area that they're buying the houses in. So there's a lot of variation. There's nothing that's like set in stone other than Zillow, Redfin, and Knock with their fees. But OfferPad and Open Door are the ones that seem to have the most variance in what their fees are.
Scott, those fees are all closing costs, commissions plus closing costs,
So there's
or just commissions?
just the fee. So you know, like when you go and you buy a car and it says processing fee at the end, $695. This is the processing fee.
Okay.
There are other fees on top of it, which we'll get to in a second, because again, they have repair fees. So they don't buy the house and fix up the house at their expense. They charge the home seller those fees. Then in addition to that, they require that you use their title company to close. So there's going to be fees that are probably a little bit exorbitant in that as well. Okay, and then of course the repair fees. They might be able to go in and fix it up for $5,000, but do you think they're going to charge what their cost is? No, they're going to upcharge that. They're going to say it's $10,000. So, but again, they're typically looking for smaller things. So the other thing is they ask the seller about the condition of the property, and if there's a dispute between the valuations of the houses, they'll ask the sellers to send pictures. But oftentimes they still don't change what they're charging the buyers. So the thing that's interesting is, because these companies aren't local, they're more virtual and they're technology based, they're considered to be financial technology companies. And there's a big problem with them being financial technology companies, and the fact that they subscribe to this thing is called the sandbox rule. And the sandbox rule basically says that companies can go in and they can present their plan to the CFPB, and they say, okay, we're going to be, this company goes out and buys houses. Now, CFPB rubber stamps them, and they're supposed to have oversight over these companies. But they don't have oversight over the companies that they're currently dealing with, right? And being in this sandbox rule or ruling, they don't have to disclose what their fees are or what they charge in advance to the consumer or what their APR is. So Paul and I discussed this, was on these payday loans. Payday loans, the APR can be as high as 100%. So the people can't get out of the loans that they're under with these financial technology companies, and then there's no recourse to them. And I don't know if you guys remember this or not. So let me finish up on why the sandbox rule came into play for Bitcoin and for cryptocurrencies to get off the ground and to be able to solicit venture capital funds. And that's very similar to what these iBuyers are doing. They're flying. They don't have to disclose, and as I said, their fees are different in different parts of the country, all right? But then also, they don't have to disclose what their settlement fees are in advance, so the buyer or the seller gets under contract, and then they get whacked with all these fees. But the cryptocurrencies are the ones that started this ruling. And how did that work out for people who were buying Bitcoin? Not good.
Well, mine was 17 or 18 or 19,000 per coin.
Right. So there was a ruling, and this is the, so it's, again, you're not playing fairly, right? So what happened between 2004 and 2007 with the lending industry?
Wild Wild West.
Haywire.
Wild, Wild West, right? And they were so what happened was Dodd-Frank came in and turned everything around, okay? And GMAC was a company who was not doing housing financing, but what they did is they went into the secondary market, and so they weren't doing loan origination. They went into the secondary market and they bought loans to service, to make the money on the servicing fees. They did not care for that business, and they sold it in 2010. So they bought this servicing rights in 2006 to like 2009, sold it in 2010. Last year, they were hit with a $25 billion fine for things that they did that they didn't even do, that they just serviced. So they were held to a higher standard. these iBuyers are not gonna be held to any kind of standard. So if someone goes in and they don't know what they're getting into, which a majority of the sellers that are involved in these things don't know what they're getting into, they can't go back and sue the iBuyer company for, fleecing them on the sale of their house. They can't say, hey, I didn't know, you didn't tell me, because they're protected under that rule, which is a big problem.
But what if they are the Keller Williams and the Redfins and the real estate companies that are getting involved with this?
Redfin is a financial technology company.
And then you say
They're
Keller
virtual,
Wil-
they're a
you say-
tech company.
You say Keller Williams has a partnership with somebody?
So Keller Williams, and that's a very good question, Keller Williams has a partnership with OfferPad. So Paul wants to sell his house, and I say, okay, well, Amanda at OfferPad will buy it, I get a 1% referral fee. You buy it for $250, and then you give me the listing for $3.25, and it sells, right? Paul can't come after OfferPad, but they could come after me. So it is a way for these iBuying companies, primarily in my opinion, Zillow and Redfin, to get rid of realtors, right? So there's a big scheme behind all this stuff, I think, underlying theme and scheme behind it. So I think it's there's a lot that's going to be played out, and then under this sandbox ruling, you can stay in there for as long as up to a decade before you have to come out and basically come clean. So I don't know how long this iBuyer market's going to last, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. So
That 6 and 7%, what did they call that fee?
service fee.
The service fee, is that on one side, what's that on? 6 or 7, it's the sale price of
On the
the
sales
house?
price of the house, yes. Okay, so that dovetails nicely right into what I'm going to talk about here, Paul.
It's like
So
a plan.
there is this guy
Yeah.
who he went out, and so now of these companies, the one I like the most is Knock. And Knock is actually a real estate company down in Atlanta. And Amanda, you want to buy Eddie's house, but you have too much work to do to your house. What Knock will do is they'll go in and they'll buy Eddie's house for cash, and then you move in to that house, and then we get your house out, and we market your house, and I charge you 6% for that, plus I make the 3% on buying, or whatever commission that is. And then you have 60 days to sell your house, and you're paying 8% interest plus 1 point on the purchase price of the house. So it's a way for people to get, it's almost like a
For
bridge.
how long?
60 days.
No, the 8% for 60 days?
Right, you have to sell your house
Okay.
within 60
And,
days.
and if you don't,
And if you don't?
Then I own that house and your house.
sounds great for not.
Right, so that seems to be the best one of the bunch, okay? So,
Best of the worst, you're saying?
right, go ahead.
No, I'm just wondering, how do we educate people about
So-
what a scam this is?
Okay, so it's probably best described in the numbers, okay? So, who uses RPR? What's the value of a house in RPR?
It's a range.
Correct. A big range, not like a small range,
It's a
not
big
$5,000 to
range.
$10,000. It's
Could be 100,000.
50 to 100,000, correct. So, in this one instance, this guy, I don't see his name, I'll have to get it. But he went in and requested prices. So, he went in, bought a house, remodeled it, added some square footage, right? Got an appraisal, which we know not all appraisals are good and valid appraisals, but just so he had a baseline for the house. And a house that he has appraised for $495,000. So he went to knock, and the initial price offer was $323,000 to $409,000. Okay, and they said that it was through tax records and comps, and he looked at the comps that they chose, and they were all outside of his subdivision, and they all adjusted them because they're smaller and had less upgrades to a lower price. He said that he had the appraisal for $495,000, and they said that they would come up, and the final offer was made of $373,000. So it's $122,000 less than the appraisal. Now we all know that not market appraisals or appraisals for refinances aren't typically great appraisals, but they're not off by $122,000. They might be off by $10,000 or $15,000. Okay, so the guaranteed price was, so this is a price that they said that they would get him if he didn't sell the house on his own. in that 60-day time frame, Amanda, right? But they would guarantee to buy it regardless if you sold it or not at 6%, 6.6% less. Okay, so I'll guarantee to buy it at $352, or we try to put it on the market and try and get you $373 when we know that the house is worth $470 to $495. Okay, and then they had fees of 6% to do that. So purchase price of $373, fees of $22,000, total net of $351, not including the repairs. So again, that was a difference of $122,000. All right, and then the estimated closing costs from knock was $4,757. Now, how many of your sellers have ever had $4,757 in closing costs on a $373,000 house? So by owning your own title company, you're able to control the pricing of everything. And again, they don't have to disclose it because they're a financial tech company. So you get into this transaction and you can't get out. So, Amanda, you are a former DJ. What song comes to mind?
Right now,
Yes,
money.
Hotel California.
Okay.
You can check out anytime you like, but you can't ever leave, right? You're screwed. You're in this deal and you can't get out until you pay the money. So, next we have OfferPad, and they're similar to knock, but in looking at this OfferPad transaction, they were way, oh no, so that was one. So he did another one where the OfferPad price was $220,000. They had $13,200 in fees. They had the OfferPad experience fee of $2,200. Repairs to be determined, and they came in at $204 on a house that was worth $250,000. I'm sorry, $275,000. So
And then whatever repairs they determine, they deduct from the price they're gonna pay?
correct. So, as I said, you know, you think you can get it done for $5,000 or $6,000, they're going to charge you 10, right? So there's no control, there's no set fee that they're going to charge you that they have to disclose in advance.
Are there outs at all?
No outs. Once you're under contract, it's Hotel California.
But, okay, so, I mean, are these just really extreme examples that you're providing?
No,
Or
these are all
very-
over. These are all over the internet.
Just no, just say no.
Right. So you get these offers, right? And again, I'll pay 300 and what I say, 350 something for a house that appraised for 495 all day long.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it would be stupid not to. And you may become your own iBuyers, right?
So do they turn around and try and sell it for the 495, or do they try and sell it for the 300 that they're offering?
No. So they're gonna. So again, so the answer is they're gonna go in and they're gonna get market value. They're gonna list it with a realtor and pay 1%, and I don't know what they pay the buyer agents, but they'll pay you 1% to list that. Same. So Zillow is going through their premier agents. OfferPad is going to be going through Keller agents. Open Door has their own real estate company, so they're going to be selling with their own agents. Knock has their own agents, so they're going to be doing that themselves. So the big thing, it's a lot of buzz, so you're now educated, so you can say, let me tell you what this company is really all about. This company is all about them, right? And a good way to equate them is to fast food. It's cheap, it's inefficient, and it's unhealthy, right? But you can do it. You can still eat McDonald's if you choose, or Wawa if you choose. But it's better to go and eat, better to go to a sit-down restaurant, order off the menu, and then have a good, healthy choice like a salad, right? Right?
Scott,
It doesn't, it's all about speed, right?
Instead of the one-offs that we do pull off the internet, has anybody done sort of a general study of the market saying, if you use these companies in general, it's gonna be a 5, 10, 15, 20% whack that you're gonna take versus using an agent?
Right.
blah, blah,
So,
blah.
again, and just talking to people, so here, the example that they use is the accuracy of their pricing is not where it needs to be. So, on average, from people I've spoken with, they're coming in at about 20% of market value. And then they're charging their fees on top of it, okay? So in this particular example, purchase price of $341, and then the net difference from the final appraisal and what it cost them was $45,000 less. So what's that number gonna be? That's about 12 or 13%, right? So they're not gonna, you're not, as much as they say that they're gonna give you fair market value, they don't give you fair market value.
They give you an opportunity to get out.
Right, so
So
the way,
who is their, I mean, are they targeting a certain segment of the selling population?
areas, they're going into cookie cutter areas, so.
I guess my question is are they going after elderly? I mean,
No,
so-
they're going after anybody. So, you know, the one instance that it truly, I think, would make sense is Tom is in North Carolina and Jennifer is in California, and your parents have passed away and they're in Massachusetts, right? And you two don't like each other and you don't talk to each other. Let's just sell this thing, get our money and move on, right? So that's a good opportunity for someone, right? Death of a parent or something like that. Or you're just too busy and you can't handle it and you don't want to deal with it and you just want the money and run, and you're not concerned about getting top dollar, you just want your money next week, right? So there is a segment of the population that it's going to appeal to, but they're not targeting specific people, they're targeting areas because their algorithm, they believe, works. And that's why I don't think it's going to work in the higher price points. Now, out here, could it work? Yeah, look how many one-car garage townhouses are in South Riding, and how many two-car garage townhouses are in South Riding, right? But the houses are all different, and the square footages are all different, and the 2,000 square foot houses are all different in what they offer in single-family wise, right? So there are certain things that the algorithm could work for here, but I don't think they're going to jump on the bandwagon and come here necessarily.
They've also taken every single step in the process and made a profit center out of it.
Right.
Every, like the title part of it,
Right.
everything is grossly inflated or devalued on their behalf.
Yes.
Have you ever heard of a homeowner that got out after they got in?
No, I have not heard of anybody getting out. So
Do you know
there,
anybody who's done it?
And is there like a large fee if they back out?
there must be, but nobody spoke about that in any of the articles I read. And I have a friend in Phoenix who he goes out to, when he lists the house, he gets under contract, and then he takes the property and goes to OfferPad and OfferPad, Open Door, and Zillow, and says, here's my listing I'm putting on the market, what do you want to offer my sellers? And then he analyzes all three offers, and he'll either beat the price that they're getting if they want to go that route, or they'll determine that they want to put it on the market. Okay? So
he goes out in with that information already, like, okay, this is what they want to offer you.
right.
Now, do you want to wait for market conditions or me to buy it?
Right. Right. So, in the end, you guys have options, right? So here are the options you have. One is, I'll be your iBuyer, and I'll go in and I'll make an offer to where when I sell it, I make money, which I'm happy to do. And then the next one is, we have max house price, right, available to you, where you can go in and have the fix-up costs done, and the sellers can net more money, which, again, you look like a hero in that instance. Another option is they can fix up the house themselves, right, and not include another company in on that profit. And then the other option is you price it 15% under market as is and try and generate multiple offers. But that doesn't always work. So you have different options available to our sellers when you go out on your listing presentation. Which route do you want to go? Do you want to go speed and convenience? Do you want to go top dollar? Or do you want to go as is? You know, what do you guys want to do? So that way you have a few more arrows in your quiver, right? Any questions?
If your sellers don't bring it up, don't bring it up.
No, right. I mean, because really, it's not an option here. But if
Not an
people,
issue, don't bring it this.
right? But the thing is, if people say, hey, what's this Redfin thing, right? Because I was checking other companies. I says, you know, it's called Redfin Now, what is that? So now you know Redfin Now is what they're doing, right, and what they charge. And then Zillow Instant Offers, it's up on Zillow right now, so if someone's done their research and their homework, they may ask you what that is. And so now you know, and you can educate them. Yes?
Would it be fair then to say, well, you know those signs that you used to see in the meetings everywhere that said we buy homes?
Right.
It's kind of like the extension of what that became, but now it's online.
It's run by financial technology companies today versus local companies who are wholesalers. So We Buy Ugly Houses is a franchise, and they're nationwide, and they have like, you know, the Flintstones or whatever they have on their house, so they buy ugly houses. And then Express Home Buyers does the TV advertising and radio advertising. What those companies are really looking to do, they're looking more to wholesale the houses because they don't want to carry the interest carry on those properties. They want to buy the house for $350, get it under contract, and flip it to you for $370 instead of buying it for $350, putting $40,000 or $50,000 in and selling it for $425. They want to sell it to an investor to go in and have all of that liability and all that risk. So a majority of the houses that those guys are buying, they're not actually buying and closing on, they're flipping the contracts.
So they're not profiting much on them then?
But it's all made up in volume, as Kevin said,
Numbers.
right? But if you're,
Look good on TV.
right, but if you're wholesaling 20 houses a month and you're making $10,000 a month, that's a pretty good number, right?
Selling widgets.
Selling widgets, yeah.
Selling widgets.
And they're selling widgets at their profit levels, not the buyers. So again, it's bad for the community. So what are they doing? Let's talk about that one. So they're driving down values in neighborhoods, number one. They're making you use their title company, who is not a local title company, so they're taking business that's typically done by a realtor here and a title company here, and taking that money elsewhere. So again, not good for the community. And then lastly, they're bringing in their contractors to do the work. So your contractors here or contractors here locally aren't getting paid to do the work. So they're sucking money out of the economy and the local communities that they're doing business in. All around, not a good for the consumer, for the neighbors, for the neighborhood, for the realtors, for anyone involved in the transaction. So that's what you have to explain to your clients.
Where do we
Alright.
sign up?
Right.
It's bad.
All right, go sell something. Yes, Dave.
Hey, one quick thing. It's been coming up, guaranteed sale. Do you want to talk about that real quick? Because some of these people are offering guaranteed sale and how they're charging a higher commission to
Okay,
guarantee that.
so again, a guaranteed sale is another form of the iBuyer, right? What the guaranteed buy program is going to do is it's going to get your foot in the door for a conversation with a seller, right? That's basically all that it does. So in a guaranteed buy, which we've done over 300 of them, we used to represent buyers of houses when they were buying new homes in the heyday, right? So what we would do is we would go in and we'd say, okay, we're going to pay this much for your house. We want this much profit. It's going to take us this long to sell. It's going to cost us this much money to buy, this much money to carry, and we're going to offer you this price, right? So that price on like a $400,000 house was typically about $320,000. And what we would say at that time is, if we buy your house at $320,000, everyone loses. We don't want to get there. So we had them do a home inspection. We had them have a stager come in. They had to do everything on the home inspection list and on the staging list. And then also built into the contract, we start off at $400,000 at market, and then every 21 days we lowered the price $10,000 until we got the eventual buyout price at $320,000. Okay, so I thought ours was pretty fair in what we did because we wanted the sellers to get top dollar, and we didn't want to buy the house, right? So for that fee, because I'd taken on a lot of risk, we're going to charge you 7% for that fee. For that service. Okay. Now, there are other companies out there that will say we'll buy you for 70% of appraised value or of market value today. So in that instance, $400,000, they'll pay you $280,000 today, and that's their buyout number. But then the seller's going to say what?
No way.
No way, right. But, okay, good, I'm glad you don't want to go that way. Let's talk about the market. And so again, it gets your foot in the door to have the conversation with the seller, right? And then there are other companies that'll market the house for 90 days, and then they'll do an appraisal, and they'll give those people 90% of the appraised value. Again, a very arbitrary number. Who knows where that number is going to be? And then there's other companies that'll pay 90% of tax assessed value. So again, it's just a marketing ploy to get you in the door to talk to people, because a majority of the sellers are not going to go for that kind of number. So basically, it's a marketing avenue if you want to decide to go that way.
And one of the teams charges 10, 11%.
So it's, again, an iBuyer fee, service fee.
Plus the,
No,
plus
to-
offering a commission
No,
to
it's
the
total,
buyer?
that's their total commission.
That's total commission.
Right. So it's just, it's a way to get you in the door to have a conversation with somebody. Okay, well, we can just list it straight out, make these repairs, we'll do a 90-day listing at, you know, $395 or whatever, right? And 6% commission or 5% commission, whatever you want to do. So just a way to market yourself, all right?
That's pretty much what I did 2 years ago when I put my own home on the market.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to see what Home Express buyers are all about, and they gave me a price right over the phone, and I was like, all right, thank you. I sold it for $100K more, so.
Right, so.
But
it
if you'd
is-
have sold it to them, it'd have been a lot easier.
Well, they probably would have wholesaled it.
Yeah.
That's what they would do. All right, go sell
could've bought
something.
that.
And sorry I was late.